Happy New Year, Global Senseis, as we are back to hiking in the mountains to see the New Year sunrise, as the Cyber New Year March event is making a return this Tuesday, and with it marks the introduction of Camp Maki as the new permanent 3-star unit, plus Camp Hare's and Camp Kotama's banners, as well as Himari's and Swimsuit Aimi's banners are all being rerun, with the latter two being combined alongside our Camp Girls as part of Nexon's efforts to reduce the gap to 3 months. I've already previously reviewed the rerun units. I'll leave the link to those reviews in the pinned comment. I think they still hold up fairly well, though there are certainly some things that are different, like Himari not exactly being a must-pull anymore if you have Rio and Camp Hare. Anyways, without further ado, here is a short review of Camp Maki. Boys, I need not revolt any longer, as Veritas' cutie in a camp outfit is finally playable. It's one of my favorite Millennium students and my #1 Veritas waifu alongside Hare. It's Camp Maki. Good golly gumdrops, fellas, I can't get enough of how much of a cutie patootie she is, and her camp outfit amplifies her cuteness even more. I especially love her red crimson hair that's tied into twin braids. It makes her look like such an adorable happy camper, plus those bangs in the front. My god, it really seals the deal for me. There's also her camp outfit that enhances her adorableness even more, like that big beige beanie with the cat-like ears, that cute red sweater alongside that bulky camping jacket, those cute shorts with the high-class lace-up fur boots, and god, the way she's holding her bag in her portrait is just too much for my heart. And don't get me started on that smile, that cute, adorable smile, and the excited expression with those blue eyes. She's just too cute. Whoa, Maki, I love you so much. I wanna do things to you in the tent that not even Chihiro knows. I'm sorry, Bina, I have to NTR you. Maki's gonna come out of that tent with at least 3 kids in her belly. Anyways, I'm glad that Camp Maki is finally playable, and seeing how cute she is, it's no wonder why when the event first released, despite not being playable, she had way more fan art and was more popular compared to Camp Hare and Kotama. So, what kind of student is she? Well, Camp Maki is a permanent special explosive DPS unit whose terrain moods are as follows: D combat power in urban terrains, S combat power in field, and B combat power indoors. She also rocks the standard DPS equipment set consisting of hat, pin, and watch, with the hat and watch being the priority as they boost her offensive capabilities. Now, let's discuss the skills in detail. Firstly, Camp Maki is mainly a strong special rate single target damage dealer with a very simple and straightforward kit. With her EX, she is able to deal a ton of rate damage to a single enemy due to its massive 1642% multiplier at max level skill, and it also comes with the unique ability of ignoring barriers/shields, with her being the second unit in the game alongside Swimsuit Fubuki, who has this special skill. I'll go into more detail about it in the user section later. Plus, her EX's 4 cost is also pretty average as well. Thus, as you can see, Camp Maki has a very straightforward, easy to use EX. Like, all you need to do is just activate it, allowing her to deal a good amount of rate damage, with her shield ignoring ability also being part of her main appeal. Next, her basic skill, which activates every 45 seconds, increases her explosive effectiveness by 53.2% at level 10 skill for 25 seconds, meaning there is a relatively decent 20-second downtime between activations. This buff is actually very potent and useful, because it can help to greatly boost her EX's damage, since her rate weakness damage is increased by more than half. Plus, combine it with another unit's explosive effectiveness buff from their sub-skill, such as Minori's, Gaipinas, or Swimsuit Fubuki's. Remember, she's a special unit, so that's the only way for her to get these weakness effectiveness buffs so far, and her explosive effectiveness is increased to around 83.4%, allowing her to hit harder and significantly improving her damage output. Hence, this means you'd ideally want her basic skill to proc first before using her EX. However, the initial 45-second activation is quite lengthy, so you might potentially lose out on damage if you delay her EX while waiting for her first basic to trigger, but it can be quite worth it cause the buff she receives lasts for a good while and it can help ramp up her damage. Plus, you'll only need to wait for a relatively short 20 seconds once this buff expires. Moving on, Camp Maki's Enhanced Skill and Enhanced Skill Plus at UE40 both increase her attack, with the latter being more important for harder difficulty content as it can help to improve her EX's damage. Meanwhile, her sub-skill increases your entire team's crit damage, with this sub being fairly universal/useful since it can assist in in slightly improving hers and most other DPS units' damage output as well. Finally, at UE50, her field combat power is upgraded from S to SS, and this improved terrain mood can once again be very significant, especially in more difficult content, since her effectiveness against raid bosses in this terrain is hugely boosted. Overall, Camp Maki is a pretty good special raid single target damage dealer due to her hard-hitting EX and its unique ignore barrier ability. Plus, it becomes even more powerful once she receives her basic skill's potent explosive effectiveness buff. So, where can she be used in? Well, like a lot of raid special DPS units, Camp Maki has proven somewhat useful for Gebura. As most of you know, Gabby will occasionally spawn an ice pillar which has an extremely durable shield that lasts for 20 seconds and whose health is equal to 400% of the pillar's max HP. This ice pillar will lower your unit's defense by 45%, inflict them with a recovery limit debuff that reduces all healing received to 1, while also dealing quite a bit of damage every 4 seconds. Not to mention, when it is destroyed, the heater recovery boost is increased by 100% for 20 seconds, and all students' healing power is also increased by 200%. So you need to destroy this pillar as quick as possible. Thus, this is where Camp Maki's shield ignore ability comes in handy, cause similar to Swimsuit Fubuki, her EX is able to bypass the strong shield and directly damage the pillar's HP, potentially destroying it immediately, allowing her to become a decent ice pillar breaker for this raid. Plus, she is much better than Swimsuit Shiroko, the default pillar breaker most senseis usually turn to, especially on Insane and below, due to her added ability of shredding the boss's defense, as she unfortunately needs to wait for the shield to disappear after 20 seconds before being able to destroy the pillar with her EX, since she would only put a small dent in his shield, especially on Insane and above. With that being said, in order for Camp Maki to properly destroy the pillar, she would need her basic to proc, as her potent explosive effectiveness self-buff will be a huge help in destroying it smoothly. And this is particularly true for the higher difficulties like Torment or Lunatic, where the ice pillar has tons more HP, unlike Swimsuit Fubuki, who can ignore the pillar's shield and break it without much delay or difficulty, especially since her AoE EX is actually really strong. Plus, she has a passive explosive effectiveness buff on her sub, though she would still need to be around UE30 to UE50 if you want to take on Torment and Lunatic. This also applies to Camp Maki, who would need UE30 to UE40 for these stages too, as the extra attack stats and improved terrain mood will be a huge help in demolishing the pillar more consistently and smoothly. You could try 4-star Camp Maki on these difficulties, though she will need a ton of buffs to even have a chance of breaking it. Not only that, while Camp Maki's crit damage sub can generally be useful in other content, for this raid it isn't as good as Swimsuit Fubuki's sub-skills EE buff, namely cause you can rely on units like Idol Sakurako to give your special DPS units a crit damage buff, whereas there currently aren't any specialized EE buffers for your raid special damage dealers. Hence, while Camp Maki is a decent ice pillar breaker option, being used a bit in a number of senseis teams for mostly Torment and Lunatic during the second Gebura raid in JP, she sadly couldn't dethrone Swimsuit Fubuki, with most senseis still relying on our Nemugaki to be one of their team's designated ice pillar breakers, with some even bringing her into their main team alongside Satsuki and the Idol Girls plus Uniform Asuna, since she is the better / more consistent option to destroy the pillar, especially after receiving the aforementioned units' potent buffs. Plus, for Insane and below, most just defaulted to Swimsuit Shiroko despite needing to wait for the pillar shield to disappear on Insane, as a cost recovery sub and defense down are excellent utility for defeating the boss quicker. Even as a sub DPS unit, while Camp Maki can be an okay choice, you definitely have much better options to choose from, such as Guide Pina, Hibiki or Uniform Karin for the cleanup. Nevertheless, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to use Camp Maki, maybe because you don't have Swimsuit Fubuki or you desperately need an extra ice pillar destroyer, then feel free to bring her into your team if you need to. Aside from Gebura, she has unfortunately not seen much use elsewhere. She isn't good for Gregorius since she is a single target damage dealer and this raid necessitates AoE attackers. You might be able to use her in an additional special DPS focused team for a number of few raids. However, you have way better options to choose from. So overall, should you pull for Camp Maki? Well, in my opinion, if you plan on taking on the next Gebra raid more seriously, like perhaps you want to tackle Torment and Lunatic in the future, and you need an extra Ice Pillar Destroyer, maybe because you don't have Swimsuit Fubuki, or you need an additional option for one of your teams, then sure, you may pull for her. However, I also personally feel that if you're already very comfy for Gabby, and you aren't interested in doing anything above insane, or if you don't require another Ice Pillar Breaker, perhaps because you're fine with just using Swimsuit Shiroko, or especially if you already own Swimsuit Fubuki, then you may just skip her. Not only that, she isn't as big of a pull priority, since there are other much more important units that are coming in the next few weeks/months, like Nyuya Fuka for those of you who still don't have her, as well as the Shupogaki twins. Plus, in terms of the current banners, both Camp Hare and Himari are way more relevant to the meta as powerful attack buffers. So if you want to pull during this update, you might as well do it on their banners instead. Thus, you may skip Camp Maki and either pull for Camp Hare/Himari or just save your Paroxines for future banners. I know a ton of Sensei's Parox stash has been hit hard since we are fresh off the back of the 4th anniversary. But if Camp Maki is your cutie patootie waifu and you wanna game with her in a tent, then don't let me stop you from pulling for her. And that's all for this week's review. Again, I've already previously reviewed the other banner units in separate videos. You can go check them out if you like. I'll leave the links in the pinned comment. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know who you're pulling for if you are, and I'll see y'all in the next one.